We're so thrilled to have Donna Brazile with us today, this being the occasion of our second biennial summit, and thank you for joining us here. What I want to do is introduce the students, and then the students are going to do the introduction of Donna Brazile. I want to start by thanking Professor Mark Vail from the Department of Political Science. Mark's going to conduct the discussion after the talk, and Mark nominated the two students who are our introducers today. First of all, there's Alice Figueroa. She's a senior majoring in political science and international relations. She tells me that Professor Vail has taught her in 3 political science classes: comparative political economy of the welfare state, and European governments. She says, as a woman and a New Orleans native and a student of political science, I am inspired by Donna Brazile's outstanding career. Sarah Ray is a senior studying political science and social policy. Professor Vail is currently advising her while she writes her thesis on urban community development. She was selected as a 2008 Harry S. Truman Scholar. Sarah's committed to public service, and she hopes to enter the world of public policy and politics after she graduates in May. She is honored to introduce such an important political figure. So, thanks to the students, and I'll have them come up and do the introduction.
Hello, everyone, and good morning. I'm pleased and honored to be here today introducing to you one of the most influential voices in modern American politics. Donna Brazile has worked on a presidential campaign each election year since 1984. She made history in 2000 when she led the Gore-Lieberman campaign, making her the first African American to lead a major presidential campaign. Prior to joining the Gore campaign, Brazile was chief of staff and press secretary to Congresswoman Eleanor Holmes Norton of the District of Columbia. Currently, Brazile is chair of the Democratic National Committee's Voting Rights Institute, which was established in 2001 to help protect and promote the rights of all Americans to participate in the democratic process. Brazile was a superdelegate at the Democratic National Convention and showed her sharp wit when asked by Stephen Colbert for whom she would be casting her ballot. Brazile said, "Look, I'm a woman, so I like Hillary. I'm black, so I like Obama. But I'm also grumpy, so I like John McCain." Brazile is also an author, having written a memoir about her life in the political arena entitled Cooking with Grease, Stirring the Pots in American Politics.
A native of New Orleans, Louisiana, Brazile earned her undergraduate degree from Louisiana State University in Baton Rouge. Her frankness and strength of character, balanced with her New Orleanian charm and wit, have earned her the respect of the national media and of her fellow political activists. The recipient of numerous awards and honors, Brazile is a weekly contributor and political commentator on This Week with George Stephanopoulos. You also often see her on CNN and ABC as one of the go-to political commentators. In addition, she is a columnist for Roll Call newspaper and contributes regularly to Political Corner on NPR. Brazile's powerful influence on contemporary politics is remarkable, but what I admire the most is her commitment to motivate all people to express their diversity through the political process. Furthermore, Brazile is currently the founder and managing director of Brazile Associates, a political consulting and grassroots advocacy firm based in Washington. She is also adjunct professor at Georgetown University. Through her work, she has shown us that gender and racial diversity should not be a divisive force that prevents us from achieving our goals. Instead, our diversity should be embraced as a unifying force that contributes to the cultural and intellectual richness of our society. She is the recipient of numerous awards and honors, including being dubbed one of Washington Magazine's 100 Most Powerful Women in D.C. Her accomplishments are proof that there are no limitations to the human potential as long as we are diligent. One of my favorite columnists for the Times-Picayune, Chris Rose, wrote the following words that I believe Mrs. Brazile can relate to just as much as I do. He wrote, "She is a New Orleans girl, and New Orleans girls never live anywhere else, and even if they do, they always come back. That's just the way it is." From a New Orleans woman to another New Orleans woman, I am excited to have you back home. And I am proud in joining the summit and welcoming Donna Brazile.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Wow, I have double mics. I feel presidential all of a sudden. Well, first of all, I want to just say to the two students who introduced me, I was very touched and pleased by all of the additional things you said. I know when you write your bio, you try to put the best light on your life, especially someone who has been involved in the political arena now for about 40 years. I know I don't look it. Thank the Lord for Miss Clairol, number 13. But it is true. This year marks my 40th anniversary of the first political campaign I got involved in back in 1969 here in Kenner, Louisiana. And let me tell you, I fought for a playground, Governor. I know that's not as big as what people fight for when they become United States senators and presidents and members of the House, but I just fought for something that was very local, very dear to my heart. And we have that playground, and thanks to the great people of Kenner, it's still there, despite all of the turmoil and all of the wind and water damage that it endured during Hurricane Katrina. It is, of course, my great honor to be on this campus. Now, I have to tell you, as an LSU grad, I never swore off coming to Tulane. You see, LSU gave me a scholarship, and back in those days, my mother said, you're going to Baton Rouge. But this is, of course, a special time to visit home with all of the festivities, and the city was humming last night. I was trying to sneak into some bars without people looking at me. And there's a golf show. And I'm like, this is not tea time. Why are they all hanging out here at 5 o'clock? Well, I guess it's tea time somewhere. But they were eating the oysters and the shrimp, and I have to tell you, everything was delicious. And so I hope tonight to finish off what I didn't complete last night. There's nothing like going back with a suitcase full of products from home. I'm out of red beans. I'm out of my coffee. And don't ever invite your sisters and brothers to the inaugural celebration because you're also out of toilet paper and paper towels. Now, they all have air mattresses, which is a good thing because they still have those air mattresses from almost spending a year after Katrina sleeping on floors. But they went through my red beans, and I had friends that I went to high school with and college with. They all called me and said, well, can I come by? And so there you have it. By the time I got off of ABC and CNN at night, Mary, you would appreciate this. You know what it's like to bring in out-of-town visitors, and that's what I called them. I had some stuff in my recycle bin that I was ashamed of. I immediately went and I said, no, that's going to be trash. I don't want people, yeah, we might recycle that in Louisiana, but that is trash in Washington, D.C. But this is a special, very special city to me. It's not only because it was where I was born and raised, but coming home for me is always a time for revival, a time to recommit myself, as I've done so many times since that powerful hurricane, to helping my city and my state with all of its plans that we know are on the drawing board to keep us going forward. Yesterday, Senator Landrieu called upon President Obama for a one-year extension of the Disaster Housing Assistance Program. And I emailed the Obama transition team long before they took the oath of office and said, heads up, this program will expire in February. This program helps so many Louisianians, so many survivors, over 31,000 people in this area. And I said, we still face a housing crisis in the state of Louisiana. Our communities are still recovering. Affordable rental units are still difficult to find. And without it, it's going to be very hard for many people to return and for those who are here to stay in their homes. So this program is very important for our recovery efforts. And I spoke this morning with Governor Blanco, who many of you know appointed me to serve on the Louisiana Recovery Authority along with Mary. Mary and I have since decided to move on to other things, but we're still committed to making sure that all of the vital programs, all of the vital assistance that we've received continues until we are fully recovered. And so the extension needs to happen, and I'm calling upon the Obama administration to make sure that this program is extended at the end of the month so that people are not turned away and that we don't increase the homeless population in this city. And I will go back to Washington and make sure that the Obama administration, the team there at the White House, the team at HUD and FEMA knows that I will come knocking on their doors. I knocked on George Bush's doors, and I will knock on President Obama's door for Louisiana as well. President Obama will keep his promise. He will keep the promise made by President Bush to rebuild New Orleans and the state of Louisiana, the Gulf Coast. And I know that the President and Vice President will visit our great state. I don't have the date, but as soon as I get it, I will leak it. Who knows, I might get a ride. I don't mind Southwest Airlines, but I haven't forgotten what it's like to be on Air Force One and Air Force Two. Well, let me just say that 2008 was a groundbreaking and historic election season. It was a time for change and a season of renewal for our country. I never thought I would see this day. This was not something I could imagine as a child who grew up here in Louisiana on the other side of the train tracks. I lived through segregation, although it was the end, but I felt the sting of discrimination based not only on my race, but also my gender. But this election offered a new milestone in American history, especially in our journey toward freedom for all Americans. It was a reaffirmation of the American dream. In 2008, we made more than presidential history. For the first time in our country, more women were elected to the United States House of Representatives. Over 77 women are now serving in the House, and once the Senate approved Judge Gregg as the Newcomb Secretary, we will have a record number of women serving in the United States Senate, 18. But still, that's not enough. We all know that we have to hurry history, and we cannot wait for men to be appointed to their positions before we take our seats at the table. It's not enough that we have just a handful of women chairing major committees. Senator Landrieu will now chair the Committee on Small Business and Entrepreneurship, and that's good. I know I'll be talking with her about that. Senator Feinstein of California will be chairing the Senate Intelligence Committee. By the way, Senator Feinstein gave me some of the best inaugural tickets ever, so I love California. Senator Landrieu gave me a lot of tickets too, don't get me wrong. I didn't hit up Vitta. I told David Vitta I was going to hold on because I sent everybody his way, but I wanted some good seats, so Mary took care of me. But I traded in the seats that Mary gave me for some people. Ruby Bridges was coming, and there were a lot of other Louisianians coming that didn't have seats, and so it was funny. Mary gave me 4 tickets, and by the end of the day, I called Alicia, her staff person, and gave her back 3 because I felt sorry. So many Louisianians came in on a bus. I gave them back, and Senator Feinstein's office gave me 2. And then I traded in those 2, got another 4. Oh, this was a horse trading business. I mean, if you wanted to sit anywhere near the platform, you had to keep trading. And I traded my DNC tickets for some standing tickets, and I gave Halle Berry one of my standing tickets, and Samuel Jackson one of my seated tickets, and Reverend Jackson, who had a standing, I gave him a seat. I was trading. I was horse trading to the last minute, and at 9:30 that night, Senator Feinstein gave me 2 more, and they were platform ticket, and my guess was my sister Lisa. And the reason why I tell you that story is because Lisa not only loaned me $150 to come to Washington, D.C. back in 1981, but of all my family members who survived Katrina, and who, of course, has suffered and has really had to work hard to rebuild, Lisa, who lived in New Orleans East, she stayed along with her partner, Elmo. They worked at the hospital, Elmo at Tulane, Lisa at East Jefferson. Their kids, they didn't even know if their kids made it out, but they did. Their kids were in Reston, Louisiana. Lisa finally got to Lafayette almost a week later when we found out that she made it. And she has rebuilt not only her house in New Orleans East thanks to the road home money, but also she has a house across the river so she can help another family member come back home. So she's my hero, and I decided to bring Lisa. And Lisa had 3 dollar store General cameras. And I have to tell you, I'm jealous because I bought a new Nikon, right? And I couldn't figure out how to work. So Lisa has pictures of President Obama, former President Bush, Dick Cheney, Aretha Franklin, everybody. And I'm like, dollar store General. I passed it last night. I said I should stop and get me 3. And my cameras, I have the back of everybody's head. Lisa has faces. I had to tell y'all that story. I'm sorry, but that is, I'm still jealous. I want to go to her house and get the negatives before I go back. But no, we have Barbara Boxer now to chair the Senate Committee on Environment and Public Works. And of course, in the House, in addition to Speaker Nancy Pelosi, we only have 2 women chairing major committees, Louise Slaughter of New York, who chairs, of course, the House Rules Committee, and Nydia Velasquez, who chairs Small Business Committee. So Obama's sweeping victory has been hailed by everyone as a sign that we've made monumental changes. And it is true, we have made some change. Change is good, but we haven't really made a lot of change when it comes to how we began to push women through the power line, how we began to push women up the political ladder. And as I always tell my friends, how we get the elevator stuck, that's been stuck in the lobby, to the first floor and on up. The election of Barack Obama was a force for change at many levels because so many new people were engaged like never before. Throughout the long primary season, people often would call upon me to make a stand. And I told them that, yes, I was proud of Barack Obama. Yes, I'm proud of Hillary Clinton, but I would not lose sleep over making a decision or an endorsement. As a superdelegate, I wanted both to succeed because I wanted to break not only the glass ceiling, but I wanted to take the roof off the opportunities for all in this country. So on election night, as I watched President-elect Obama rip through the once commonly held belief that leadership comes from only one mold, I kept thinking at some point I will see in my lifetime a woman holding the highest office in the land. The old mold crippled us. It prevented us from choosing from other than a rarefied group that does not represent our diversity as a country, especially the majority of the population. But I do know that after this election, we can seize this era, we can take advantage of this time to begin to put women in the political pipeline to succeed and to begin to encourage more women to take their seats at the proverbial table. This is not only our moment to celebrate Obama's achievements, but our top priority must be to encourage other minorities and other women to find their voice and to get involved in the political process. We've come a long way to where we are today, and it is indeed a very special day. But we cannot hurry history unless we're willing to take on some of the old stereotypes, some of the old barriers that has kept us lagging in every social index. One of the things I hope and encourage young women to do today is to begin to visualize themselves in leadership positions. Don't wait until they're 40. Don't wait until the demands of their family, of others, tell them what to do and how to do it. It's time we hurry history. And the best way to do it is to begin to visualize yourself as a successful person, whether it's in politics, academia, the media, the arts, the sciences, or whatever professional endeavor you might take on. We have to also confront the negative stereotypes that somehow or another we're weak and we're indecisive and that we do not know how to make tough decisions. Often, many of us who are TV pundits know this, that whenever they call you in to talk about the issues, of course you want to take on domestic issues because you can talk about health care until the cows come home. You can talk about education. You can talk about any other domestic issues. But the one thing I enjoy is when they call me to talk about foreign policy. I've learned more about Pakistan in the last 2 years than I ever wanted to know about that country. I know every aspect of Afghanistan, and I've never visited. I can tell you about the political terrain and all the provinces in Iraq because I want to talk about those elections. And I know the other day that 25% of all of the elected positions that were offered would be held by women because I took time to figure out what was going on in that country. You see, we need to know more than what they tell us we need to know. We need to be prepared to talk about not just the concerns here in our own backyard, but global issues. I was struck just recently after the World Economic Forum that the United States still ranks in the bottom half with regards to the global gender gap. We're ranked 56 in political empowerment, 69th in education and social concerns, and even countries like Finland, Spain, Bangladesh, Mozambique, Honduras, and China have surpassed us in many other areas. In this report, it highlights that although we make up more than half the total base, we're still underutilized, marginalized. And whether it's in economic participation, educational attainment, political empowerment, or health or survival, we're still falling further and further behind. We can do better starting now if we work to close this gap to empower women in every arena. It is true that often we wait until someone gives us permission before we decide to take a stand. And we cannot depend on the traditional women's groups. Although I respect all of them, I've worked for many of them, I've interned for most of them, but still they fall short when it comes to preparing for the day when we take political power. And they have fallen short in preparing in many ways a new generation to serve. And so in this era, this Obama era, we must use this momentum not to wait our turn or to take a seat at the back of the bus, but we must use this time to break down those old barriers and to make sure that society knows that we want to be treated not differently. We want to be treated the same as men with the same skills, the same background. And yes, thanks to Lily Ledbetter, I want to get paid the same as well. I want to also comment that during the political campaign season of 2008, I often found it demeaning as a political commentator to spend so much time defending Hillary Clinton's hairstyle or Governor Palin's choice of wardrobe. When it's substance that mattered to most women, I thought that my time should have been spent talking about the substance of their arguments and not critiquing their hairstyle or their hemline. And yet, incidentally, I was on TV one night. It was January 7th. I'll never forget it. Somehow, when it occurs the first of the month, I don't forget it. The rest of the month, it sometimes blurs. But, yeah, you're laughing, but there's an old saying about the first of the month. You remember everything. And I was on CNN, and I was on with 3 colleagues. James was not on. Mary has taught James not to be like some of our brothers on TV, ignorant. I've never had to clean up James' stuff. Only once have Wolf Blitzer tried to get me to clean up behind James, put us on together, and I was like, I'm not touching that. And James was in a fight with somebody in Hollywood, and I'm like, no, I'm from Louisiana, you know, I might have to kick his butt too, you know, I'm with James. I mean, you know, you started criticizing us, telling us we're back because we're from the bayou. I'm like, yeah, you're getting a little personal too, so I'm like, I'm with James on that. But no, we were talking about PMS. I was shocked. I don't know, I was sitting there and I was thinking about, you know, I have to get up to New Hampshire, how cold it was, and all of a sudden PMS, and I'm like, how do we get on that topic? And Carl Bernstein, he's a good friend, but it was Carl. He started it, and Hillary Clinton was up in New Hampshire, and she had, you know, she was trying to explain herself about why she was still in the race, and one of the people around the table asked her about why was she in it? And she got very emotional, and I would get very emotional too if you asked me why I've spent 40 years of my life out here going across the country, campaigning for candidates of all stripes and political persuasions, boring, bland, you name them, I've campaigned for them. And Hillary was a little emotional, but not overtly emotional, as I've seen some men who've actually had to take out the tissue. And we had some men this campaign season. I'm not mentioning, but one of them looked so good that I had to look twice every time I saw him on TV. In fact, he was on this morning. I don't care what I just love the way he looks. Y'all know what I'm talking about. And they started talking about PMS. And I just had to knock my hand there, and I said, guys, this is not PMS. I know PMS. I'm probably the only one on this show. That was not PMS. And then we stopped talking about PMS. And then one Sunday, I was talking about Sarah Palin and her wardrobe. And first of all, I was jealous. I wish somebody would send me the Neiman Marcus and Saks. I'm not going to complain about her shopping. But I said to my good friend Wolf, I said, if we didn't focus on women's wardrobes, hell, I'm sure she would not have been put in a position to go out and buy all those extra clothes. Besides, this is nothing but a show, and she just want to make sure that she's looking good and when she shows up. And let's talk about the issues. But, my friends, that's what happens in politics. They put us in an agenda box. And the media bias and the cultural bias against us as women is just horrible. And often we don't complain because we're not the victim of all of those so-called gender and cultural bias. We just sit back and say, oh, I see. No, it's not good. When Elizabeth Dole ran for president in 2000, they talked about her clothes. When she would give an energy speech, they came out and said that she had on bright orange. I said, well, she was talking about the sunset and the sunrise is not the color of her clothes. But they wanted to talk about her clothes and her shoes. And I'll never forget one day they said, well, she looked Oprah-like. I'm like, We have to confront the bias. We have to confront the media. And in these times of change, we must demand that women are treated as professionals, especially our public leaders. There's a reason why we have no female today in any top executive position, and I'm referring to elected office, governor, lieutenant governor in this state. There's a reason. Because we treat women harshly. Governor, I would say this, I didn't know you were going to be here, but I'll spell it out. During Katrina, during one of our country, our state's worst moment, they always, What's the governor? Where's the governor? What's she saying? What's she doing? How's she looking? What's she saying? How's she feeling? I mean, how's she feeling? Half her people just got wiped out down in the southern part of the country. She's from this part of the state. I kept saying she's from the Lafayette area. And especially after Hurricane Rita, what was she supposed to do but stand up and reflect the pain that we were all experiencing at that moment? It was more than pain, too. It was humiliation. Because some people, as you all know, took days before we were able to rescue, and all she was asking for was help. And sometimes it's hard. I guess she should have went into a press conference with a shotgun. Say, I'm going to shoot anybody. And then they would have said, attention. Sorry, Governor, but, you know, there's a reason why women are afraid to serve in public office. They see how people are treated, and they say, I'm not going to put myself through that. They don't know that it's important that we do serve. And I hope next time that we have an election in this state that some women decide to stand up and run statewide. Eight women in the state Senate out of 39, 14 women in the House out of 105. We're now 44. Mississippi gonna surpass us. Arkansas. We should be ashamed of ourselves. All of the great colleges and universities. I wasn't the only one that was drinking that water. Everybody drank out the Mississippi. And I don't know what's wrong with my sisters here. Because I tell you what this water and the people here did for me. They nurtured me. It filled my thirst. It gave me drive and ambition. I couldn't wait to leave Louisiana. I couldn't wait to showcase to the world just how good this state was, the public schools. I'm always proud when I tell folks that I'm a graduate of Louisiana Public Schools, Louisiana Public University. Proud of that. And I'm proud of the fact that this state made it possible for me and so many others, especially kids like myself, born at Charity Hospital. I drank the water. And thank God there were women who nurtured me along the way. Our long struggle toward freedom is possible. We can achieve equality, but we must begin to step up. We must back and support other women. We must join clubs and networks and organizations that promote women. We must encourage women, especially those who are tired of fighting the old boys network. Give them a little push. Take them out for a cocktail or coffee. I don't assume everybody drink orange juice in the morning, but if you do, give them a glass. Tell them that they got to go on and fight. It's time that we mentor young women. And I tell you, throughout my political career, and I can speak for Mary, and she'll speak for herself, and I can speak for the governor, the most important thing that we can do is to find some young women that we can mentor and to move them along. Throughout my life, I have fought to protect, defend, and honor the hard work of those women who came before us, those women who inspired us, those women who lifted us up and moved us on. When I landed yesterday, I stopped at the graveyard. I realized that I didn't have any flowers, I didn't have anything on me, but I just wanted to go and say hello to my mother and my grandmothers. I just said, I'm home. And I'm so happy that I was able to find their graveyard after all of the debris and the devastation even of our cemeteries. And for me, I just wanted to let them know that I was back and that I will be back again. Women can remake the world and bring about lasting change and lasting peace if we step up. We can remake our country at a time of economic crisis. We can remake our economy so that women will get those jobs and they will have the skills to compete in the global economy. We can remake our communities, our neighborhoods, and we can fight for what's right, just like the women of the storm did. They stood up. Everyone knew those women. I didn't know if they had red or blue umbrellas. It didn't matter. They were ready to fight for us. Together we can remake the world and take our seats at the table. It's truly up to us to believe in the change that we're seeking and to fight for our ability to serve and to stand up. I want to say in closing that one of the most important persons in my life, the woman who really did so much for me. Yes, my mother gave birth to me and 8 others. She was a great soul. But it was my grandmother Frances from Mississippi who was there every day of my life as a little girl. When we would come home, she'd say, take off your good clothes, put on your play clothes, you have 1 hour. And we had only 1 hour. 1 hour to come back in to do our homework, and then we had another hour. And she said, as soon as that street light come on, you better be inside, because when your mom and dad come home, you better be finished. That is, finished with our dinner, finished with our homework. And then we had 1 hour to watch TV. It was always something she wanted to watch. I know all of Elvis Presley's songs. She was from Mississippi, and Elvis, you know, we had Aretha and James. She was like Elvis. We had Hound Dog. People listened to Respect and I Feel Good, and we would listen to You Ain't Nothing But a Hound Dog. Love Me Tender, because Grandma, she loved her some Elvis Presley. But my grandmother was quite spiritual. She was too old and frail to walk those 8 blocks to Our Lady Perpetual Help, but every Sunday she got us up. My grandmother made all our clothes, everything but our underwears, and I tell you, those slips those days, remember they had them starch in the slips? You couldn't even sit right with them slips. Oh, boy, I'm so glad I don't even wear them no more. But she did everything for us, our Easter dresses, our Christmas dresses. But at nighttime, she would get us in her room. And a woman who had no formal education could read the Bible like any Baptist preacher and quote scripture. And her favorite passage in the Bible was from the book of Galatians, chapter 6, verse 9. Do not grow weary in doing good, for in due season you'll reap a harvest if you don't give up. My grandmother would tell us all of the men and women that she knew in her lifetime. Some who picked cotton, some who, of course, didn't know if they would ever stop paying their mortgage because they were sharecroppers. And she said the one thing that she remembered is that they never gave up. They always believed in something bigger and something brighter. So as I was sitting on that platform just about 16 days ago watching President Obama take the oath of office, I kept thinking that I'm going to live long enough to see a woman one day. I'm going to live long enough to see a woman take that oath of office. And perhaps I won't be sitting way in the back. Maybe I'll be sitting closer. But that day will come. I hope you are there too to see that day, because it is coming. Thank you so much, and I look forward to your questions. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.